Welcome to the Rub Some Dirt on It podcast. I'm your host, Coach B, Coach Bryan, and I'm thrilled to have another Coach Bryan Anderson, here with me today, just talking kids sports and coaching all around, and just want to dive into kind of your background and what you do and kind of your history in coaching.
Yeah, so I got done playing in 2016, and then I moved to Columbia, South Carolina, almost with the purpose of opening a baseball academy and start training players here. So since 2016, 2018, I really began. I took about a year off of playing and just was kind of a family dad. And we got here and kind of just went boots on the ground running and started coaching kids.
So it's exciting because obviously professional athletes in America are the creme de la creme, they say. You know, like everybody wants to be a professional athlete. If you're playing sports as a little kid, you want to be a professional athlete. So the fact that you were able to achieve that dream is amazing. And nearly 10 years of professional baseball, you've kind of went through the entire gamut of how that goes. So walk us through that journey a little bit, like getting drafted and.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. Like one of the a little guy yesterday told me they had to fill out what you want to be, when you get older.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of the kids in the class were saying baseball players, and girls were saying ballerinas. And the teacher said, "You guys can't do that because it's not a real job." And it like stung so deep, you know? So it was like, ouch. But like for me, I just always wanted to be a baseball player. I was one of those little kids that I grew up going to a lot of Dodger games and looking out on the field and kind of being that kid that's like, I want to do that one day. And, kind of cliche, with a lot of work, I was able to achieve it.
What was that moment where it was like, I can do this. Like, this is actually, I've got a real shot to go to that next level.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate. So if we like backtrack, I kind of put baseball into 4 categories, kind of like development wise. You have your cognitive, reaction time and your ability to think, and then you have your physical. So exit velo, how hard you throw, how hard how fast you run. And then you have your personality type. Are you a questioner, a rebel type of deal, like your personality. And then you have your environment. Mm-hmm. So the environment that you grew up in. And I grew up really fortunate to be surrounded by baseball, high level baseball. My high school had a bunch of major leaguers. And they would come down and practice at our high school. So, and then my grandpa had season tickets to the Dodgers since I was, well before I was born. So I went to about 20 to 30 Dodger games a year. After school, before practice, I was seeing major league players work out in the off season. So I remember I was probably a freshman in high school. And I just got down to the field real early, and the guys, the pro guys, were all like still practicing with each other, and I started playing catch with one of them, and I was impressed by how hard he was throwing and how accurate, but at the same time I was like, I think I can do this. Like by the time I'm your age, I think I can do this, and at that moment it was like a belief. Like I was like, they're really good, but it's possible. So like a freshman is when I really kind of, I think, had that seed really kind of sprout.
And you got drafted out of high school?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So what was that process like? And what made you choose to go minors instead of going to college?
Yeah. So how do you, it's very debated. Now it's a little easier with the NIL deals.
Yeah.
So it's not as like difficult of a decision for guys to stay in college. But at the time, I was just so passionate about playing pro ball Like all of my attention went into it, all of my time. So my parents kind of just backed and supported my decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, for me, it wasn't even a hard decision. When you're 18 or 17, it's not a
Presented with the opportunity.
Yeah, you kind of blinded. Now looking back on it, I would probably have done things a little differently. I would have probably chosen a better academic school to commit to. I got into some pretty prestigious schools.
Yeah.
And I turned them down to go to more of a baseball, prestigious school.
Okay.
So like all my decisions were baseball.
Yeah.
Nothing was like, everything was like, go to the best baseball school, like commit to the best.
Now you can go to
school.
Vanderbilt and play baseball.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, I had an uncle who was kind of like, you're turning down this school, you're turning down that school. Like, oh my gosh, I'm like, come on, dude. Like, and like, I look back and I'm kind of like, Uncle Mark might've been
right.
Had a little truth to that.
Yeah.
But you learn from it as you go. If you go to a more prestigious, think of a scholarship from Berkeley versus a scholarship to, in my case, Arizona. So organization to buy you out of a Berkeley scholarship versus if you have two players that equal talent. So if you and I are equal and you get, and you sign to Berkeley and I sign to Arizona, well, who do you think the organization has to pay more to get them out?
Sure.
And usually in the case of a Berkeley, like usually parents that are around are usually educated and they're like, dude, if he graduates from Berkeley, Mr. Yankee Scout, he's going to walk into like a pretty solid life.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to have to buy him out of that life. Like you're calling him out of that. So, it gets, I would have chosen that. Now, I don't know. I would have at least chosen a better school.
Yeah.
Academic.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just chose the one that would let me play.
Yeah, I was fortunate, man. I was really lucky. Like when it came time to your junior year and all the teams can contact you that like day, my phone was
blown up.
Yeah, it was a really special day.
Now, did you play any other sports in high school?
I didn't play any other sports in high school.
Really?
Yeah, I stopped in the 8th grade. So I played basketball all the way up to 8th grade.
So football or baseball and basketball up to 8th grade, and then once you were in high school, it was only baseball.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I shut down. I did a lot of extra. I talked to people like I played a lot of like we played a lot in the street. Back in the day.
Yeah.
We were big. Ride the bikes.
So what's your point of view on the specializing in a sport versus playing multiple sports? There's basically two camps in that. Are you in one camp or the other, or is it just so happened that you kind of veered off and specialized at a certain point?
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. I think, but what I feel is lacking the biggest is just natural, like playing time. Like just natural. That's the biggest thing I think is lacking.
I can see that.
Just going, you and 10 guys riding your bikes. One, that's an athletic move right there. Like you kind of compete. Like let's go. Who can ride faster? I'm gonna hop this curb. Like there's all these little intricate things back when we were kids that we did that created such like high natural athleticism. And ride your bikes to the park. Then one we got our bags. So we're riding with our gloves and our bats on our bike. Like those are all very coordinated skills before we even play.
Right.
And then we get there and now we're like naturally playing. Now we're naturally competing against each other, sliding hard, doing the whole thing. So I think there's a big natural element that is lacking big time. Like everything is so specialized.
Well, it's also, I think, a little bit of a society thing, right? So like we're driving our kids everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We're so aware of all the dangers out there that we don't allow them to just ride their bike anywhere.
Yep.
You have to take them to the bike park to ride their bike.
You have
to take them.
And I'm not preaching.
Yeah.
We do the same thing. We have an 8-year-old daughter, and I'm in the same boat. So it's not like we let her go, we're not letting her ride around the, town.
Yeah.
Like, I used to ride to one side of the town and another.
I know.
Like, that's just like, there's no chance these days.
That's right. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking about my boys are doing basketball right now. Mm-hmm. And it's very evident when they get to with a team against the team that they have kids that are just hanging out at the rec center playing basketball.
Yeah, right.
My kids don't do that. They don't. One, everything is so scheduled because we have to keep them moving and occupied.
Yep.
And we're not just letting them go down to the rec center by themselves.
Yep.
So if I can't take them there, then they're not going. But the kids that are going are playing basketball all the time and playing with older kids. And you can tell that they are way more skilled.
You're allowed freedom when you play without, having somebody tell you what to do all the time. The big problem I see right now is the kids lack the ability to make decisions. When they just, everything's coached in them. And a lot of their natural ability is lost. Like the natural, like a baseball swing, the motion of throwing is a very natural kind of rhythmic motion. And it gets lost when you have outside influences telling them every single detail to do with it when they're 8 and 9 years old. And usually an 8, 9-year-old swing is almost like their prettiest, best swing. And a lot of times, they might foul a couple balls off, and next thing you know, like that elbow, get your elbow up, and you have this stiff-looking elbow that's sticking up, and get wide, and now you have him looking even stiffer, and you just keep stiffening him up, and it's like all for what? To put the ball in play, cool. Like you just he lost all his freedom to think for himself and to adjust and to change. And a lot of times, really, that's what this game's about. That's what sports is about. It's about, hitting challenges and then adjusting to them.
Right.
And they're not allowed that freedom to kind of face those challenges alone. And that time it takes.
Yeah. So right now you are doing individual private coaching sessions for baseball. Right. Have you coached full teams before?
Yeah. So I've done it. Yeah. And that's another thing. It's like, I'm kind of like part of the problem, like I'm almost the thing that I'm saying I don't like.
Yeah.
I kind of compare it to water. Like somewhere down the line, somebody learned how to package water and sell it. And now we all buy plastic bottles and drink, these bottles of water. It was like something that was so natural before.
Right.
It's the same thing with like sports. Like somewhere over the last 20 years, people learned how to package it and bottle it in and sell it to parents. And the natural beauty of it is just kind of been just lost.
Is there a way to kind of bring that back in a sense where so you're doing individual coaching, right? But is there any techniques or things that you might want to incorporate into allowing that naturalism to expand when they're with you rather than another coach that might be?
Yeah, I think my approach is almost like I play with them. Like I want to see them. I want to give them challenges and watch them go through it, wiggle their way through it. I want to see a player whose shoulder comes off the ball. I don't tell him to. I throw him a curveball. So instead of talking to him, instead of forcing him hey, do this, do that, do this, I'll tell him I'll throw him a curveball. Well, his brain, his cognitive ability should step in and try to figure out how he needs to hit that curveball. And for most players, the number one thing is stay in. Keep my shoulder in. So by throwing him a curveball, he did it, not me.
Right.
So that's kind of my approach to everything is I see the mechanical flaw, and then I try to almost put them in a simulator. and they just keep failing and failing, and they get a little bit better, and they get a little bit better. And then, as you know, what's challenging for me is balancing the simulator, the strength of the simulator versus a reward. So at what point do you like, all right, here's a couple of treats.
Yeah.
You know, have some fun.
Feel good about that one.
Yeah, all right, you figured it out. Because what I'll do is okay, you're keeping your shoulder in. Now I'm going to throw a fastball hard inside. And it blows you up. You know, they get jammed and they get blown up. And now it's like, all right, now there's a curveball inside. Now I got a curveball inside and a fast. You know, I got a fastball inside and a curveball down and away. Like, and you don't know what's coming. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do now? I want to see them figure that out on their own.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting challenging.
Does it take longer to develop the skill or fix that technique flaw that they're doing it your way, or does it? What do you think about that? It might be better in the long run, but does it take longer?
Does it take longer? I mean, shoot.
I
don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. No. It depends on how you're looking at it. So if your goal is to hit a ball, which is kind of sad these days. So if you think of now physical ability, right? If we break down the physical skills, let's say hitting a baseball, everybody's obsessed with velo right now. Whether it's exit velo or throwing velo. From the pro scouting level to amateur, everybody is obsessed with velocity.
And then when you add in the metal bats for the high school kids and little kids, then it's how much pop does that bat add to that velo?
Yeah, I have like young 13-year-olds who are giving me like their spreadsheets from combines, you know, that are like, what's the EV power ratio? My EV power ratio is a 12. You know, what is that? I'm like, dude, you don't even need to know what that is. Like my, you know, acceleration, you know, spinal access speed is this. It's like, dude. You know, it's way too much. Like, okay, that's great, but you don't know how to hit a changeup down and away.
Yeah.
So if you think of like quick and if you think of like fast, like, is it the best method to create exit velo off of a controlled environment? No. Right? If I wanted to get a kid's velocity up, like let's say on a coach's pitch, right? We're going to do like a bunch of strength, speed, you know, overloading bats, swinging a light bat, heavy bat. A lot of things we do in the off season when they're not facing pitching, you know, is like we're developing like bat speed. We're developing power. And so the simulator kind of gets turned off for a little bit because we're focusing on power. But then when like tryouts are around the corner and I can tell the games are coming, we got to flip that simulator back on and we kind of take a break on the power because it doesn't matter how fast you swing. If you don't hit the ball,
right.
You're not going to get any hits.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all fun and games when it's a controlled environment and your coach is flipping to you, you know, or throwing right down the middle or throwing in your sweet spot. Like you see a big gap here, a big adjustment period because a lot of you guys have coach's pitch. So you have coach's pitch, and then they go from coach's pitch to kid pitch. Well, when I have my own dad throwing to me, like he knows where my sweet spot is. So these kids go from like this drastic change of like the pitcher's actually trying to get you to hit the ball. Like
right.
they're trying to throw a speed in your zone, in your bat path. Like you don't really have to do anything. You just have to swing. And I'm going to like throw it into your
Watch
bat.
the ball and hit the ball.
So like there's no cognitive like functioning happening really. Like the coach is doing everything. And then in 1 year they go and they start facing players who are now throwing and now they're trying not to throw it in your bat.
Right. And also, you're trying to sit there. They're trying to sit there and go, okay, is it going to hit me or not going to hit me?
Yeah,
is it going to be close to the strike zone, or is it not going to be close to the strike zone?
Yeah, and then the whole new fear of getting hit happens too. So
that's why I like to hit my kids. Just get over that right away.
Oh man, I throw a ball.
Coach might hit you.
I like my worst, like kind of evil drill is I'll throw behind them. When a player like steps out, steps in the bucket, they call it. When they step out. And it's just a natural, like I haven't even, their foot is already stepping out before the ball is even released. I'll throw it behind them and it freaks them out. Like there's, it's just, and I was like, yeah, you can't step that way. Yeah. If you step that way, you're going to step into that ball now. So I don't hit them. Yeah. But it scares them. And then it takes away like, okay, I'm just going to step straight. Right. I'm just going to step straight now. So
what's what's your typical age range that you deal with? And then what's kind of your sweet spot, like the kids you really love to work with the most?
I work with all ages. Seven. I had a 7-year-old this week I talked to, college and pro guys, almost daily. My sweet spot. So yeah, I work with all of them. My sweet spot, really, I think like the most players I see, probably that middle school area is a big one. Obviously working with major leaguers is
what you'd love to do
is the best.
Yeah.
Working with major leaguers. It gets difficult because like you as you start getting high school players and college guys, they have like it's so challenging to go the level of dedication that it takes to make it like to each level. It's like give and get, input output, like you know what I mean. It comes down to like the more you input, the more you're gonna get. So when you start getting into that high school, college grade of player, like they might say they want to play in the pros, but like in order to achieve that, you're going to have to, like I said, like you're going to have to dedicate.
Yeah.
And so you see a lot of talk and not a lot of action.
But I guess what I was thinking about as you were talking about it is, what's the network like? Like, how do you approach the networking and the basically getting the players to come to you, right? So if you want to work with professional players or college level players, what are you doing to kind of work that network and let people know that you're here and that you're providing great information? And do you have anything that you kind of lean on to?
I'm really big on if you're kind of the wand chooses you. The outfit will it'll come to you when you're ready. So my biggest thing is like if I want to work with pro guys, I try to get better. I try to get better myself. So I talk to.
But you still have to be like communicating with pro guys in order to let them know what you're doing and that you're available. And
I talk to coaches. I talk to major league coaches like a lot. I mean, not to like brag. I'm not doing it, but I do it to learn. I talked to the Seattle Mariners field coordinator a couple days ago. He was a former catcher, and I'm trying to get a feel for the catching technique right now. Yeah, the catch back in the day, like when we grew up, catching was very like simple. You have two positions. You have a primary, secondary. You soft hands, or firm hand. Like everything was pretty standard. No matter where you went and learned catching, it was kind of across the board the same. Now these guys are left knees down, right knees down, this foot out, this foot out. Like some guys are bringing the ball up, some guys are churning it, some guys are they're not even, some teams aren't even blocking anymore. They're just picking the ball, just picking. Like they almost don't even work on blocking. They just pick. Some teams don't want you to pick. They want you to block. So if I have a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old who's like getting ready for that next level, and he's catching, it's like, man, what do I teach this guy?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? How do I teach him? Like, which way do y'all want me to go? Because like right now, it's just like, it almost depends on what program you go. If you go to Coastal Carolina, he's going to be on a knee bringing things up. If you go to Texas, like if you go to Tennessee, he's going to be on 2 feet, having the old school kind of like, he's going to be expected to block and be that old school type of catcher. And so it's like this poor kid, like
so there isn't a way for you to, I guess you can't, they got to master it, right? So, you can't just say, hey, you got to be able to do this and this, and you got to know when you do this and when you do that.
And that brings up the great, like, so like the way I look at my style is like, I'm kind of like an MMA coach. Like I teach a little bit of boxing, a little bit of, jiu-jitsu. I teach a little, I want you to be able to adapt. Like if you see the opening for this, you need to be able to do it, execute it. So it's more of where I think a lot of coaches go into one lane. Yeah. This is the way I teach it, and I teach it to everybody. So, if you're, so they only teach one style.
Well, you have an advantage of being a former professional catcher.
Yeah.
That catching position tends to be that coach on the field. A lot of managers are former catchers. Did you ever manage or get into the professional ranks and then say, no, I want to be?
Yeah, I did a year of assistant coaching with the Red Sox. And a year of it was enough to realize like it's not for me.
Yeah.
It's just, if the dream job ever came around, and that's another one, like, when you're ready, Rachel, my wife, always jokes, like one day I feel like, the opportunity is going to come for you to get back into the game. But it'll come when you're ready.
Yeah.
When you're impacting players at a certain level and you become wanted, and there's a demand for that impact. And what are you doing? So right now, like the biggest impact I'm kind of have on guys is that middle school, high school range. Like I said, like I struggle a little bit with the college, the college guys, and a lot of it is you have to watch. It's almost like you watch your seeds grow. So
all the high school kids you're doing that actually like, then get to.
There's kids that I started training now, when they were 8, 9, 8, and now they're 15, 16. And so they're really kind of the products of the whole, like my kind of philosophy. And, I'm really proud of like their ability. And so I think that's the biggest one, like to have, to be a coach and this player has gotten all the way to the major leagues. If Aaron Judge called me, today, it's like, I might help him a little bit, but like he's already like he did all the work. Like right. You talk about that input, he's already put in the input. You're just like kind of supplementing in a small way. So I think a lot of the comes from your own homegrown guys when they start to develop and seed, and people start to see that like, man, who you been, where'd you learn
that makes a lot of sense.
Who taught you this, and that's when you can, there's not a lot, like a major leaguer, they have little struggles here. A lot of that is more mental. Mm-hmm. It's more mental. It's more timing and rhythm.
Well, certainly the Carolinas has an incredible baseball heritage and programs, and I mean, I think in the last college baseball season, half of the top 25 teams were in the Carolinas in some way.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really pumped about USC this year too.
Yeah.
You know,
But was that part of the appeal to come to Columbia? Like, why you grew up in California, Southern California, you've played all over the Midwest, you've kind of lived and traveled everywhere. Why did you choose Columbia to settle down and have your family here and start your second career here?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. So you have the weather. So I knew I wanted to leave California to raise a family, you know, somewhere more where our values are like kind of
sane.
You know, same, yeah,
sane,
yeah,
same and sane.
I love California.
Yeah,
like I
love to visit.
It's probably still, you know, I debate if it's still like my real home, you know, but like
my siblings all live out there.
Yep.
Love California,
Yep.
just don't want to live there.
Yeah, so I love exactly. So we made the decision to move out,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had a couple places picked. You know, Tennessee, Texas, like Austin, Texas is a great place.
Like every other person from California.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm going to Nashville or Texas. So
yeah. So it was like Tennessee, and then Charleston.
Nice.
Charleston, you know, was a really good. I love, you know, Charleston. So then I started doing research, you know, and finding, you know, Austin already had a lot of you know, programs, and Tennessee was very spread out. And we started looking in South Carolina, and it all really was like, wow, there's a lot of baseball. You start looking at the USSSA, all the travel ball numbers, the rec league numbers, and you start seeing those all in a small span, you know, 20-mile radius. There's a lot of baseball, but there's not. And then you go further, and you're like, okay, who's coaching?
Exactly.
Like Austin, that's the thing. Like Austin has a lot of players, but they have a ton of programs. I'm talking like great programs, like, you know, major leaguers. It's like California, like there's major leaguers coaching on every corner. And then here, I was like just like blown away at the lack, because there is so many. You have the college programs are so like they're so great, and there's a lot of pro guys, but nobody's coming back and coaching. You know, like your kids go to Trenum. Mm-hmm. How many dads are major league players? Or like
none.
Right, there's none.
You're hopeful that you get them on a team with a dad that played in college.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no professional coaching. There's nothing here for it, and it was kind of like.
Well,
for me, you know, as the business mind, it was like we just hit gold. Like
there is a honeypot here in Columbia.
Yeah, there's a gold mine. Like there's so many players, and they don't have any coaching. Now, when I got here and I started, like it was like, oh man, because nobody knows how to hit a curveball. so you like nobody. The fundamentals are like kind of lacking.
So how would you describe your coaching philosophy then? I mean, we've talked about different things that you implement and try, but do you have a way to describe your coaching philosophy?
Oh, way to describe it? I mean, no.
Okay.
No. You know, I really want to know what you want. Like I think that's the biggest. The biggest thing is to figure out the push, right? Like
what's their why?
Yeah, what's your why? What's your purpose? Like even motivation. Like motivation, I'm kind of done with motivation. Like it's a little overrated. Like the Goggins, you know, like I shouldn't have to motivate you. Like I shouldn't have to work harder than you.
Right.
You know, I shouldn't have to get you out of bed. So, like, the push is hard. Now, there's times, right, where if a guy has shown just dedicated and he needs pushed.
Well, right.
I'm here for him.
It's more encouragement at that point. Then,
yeah,
right?
I'm here for him. Because
everyone's going to go through those downturns, and that's what the good coaches do is help you get back on track.
Yeah, that's that 16-year-old that 16-year-old that's been with me since he was 8, and he's, we've gone through 8 years of just this game, and now he's put in all that work. It's like, if he needs the extra push, like, I'm there for him. But the high school kid that calls me, he's a junior in high school, and he's trying to get into a college last minute. I call it the Hail Mary. Right? You're down by 2 touchdowns, and now you need that quick touchdown, the offside kick, and score again.
Yeah.
In the 2-minute warning.
You got to try to fix everything before the last senior season starts.
They're calling me in for the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
Well, that can be very stressful. Like, so you haven't done anything all game, and now you call me in the last second to, like, solve all your problems. I haven't figured out that special sauce yet.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of those things where, like, I'm still trying, but there's got to be some level of, like, I don't know. It's very,
as a dad who has a beautiful daughter, but she doesn't play softball or baseball, what's that balance like in coaching? Like, you seem to be a natural coach, right? You enjoy it. You love doing it, but my kids, I got 4 boys, and they all play the sports that I played. And
yeah,
it's a very different experience rather than coaching kids that aren't yours, and your daughter is not necessarily in that type of sports either. She's into gymnastics and ballet and different stuff. What is that experience like for you?
Oh, it's awesome. One of the biggest things, like, for me, going through the whole journey has been the trauma I don't think people talk about.
The trauma
of making it, like, going all the way. If you think of, think of Ken Griffey Jr. He was suicidal. Barry Bonds, cheater, right? Like Mark McGwire, cheater. Tatis Jr., cheater. Like, these guys are cheaters. Like, there's, thousands of players are substance abusers. They're addicted to drugs. You're talking about a lot of traumatic episodes and things that go on. And, so as far as, like, my daughter, my biggest thing is, her mental health. Like, I want her to be happy. So, like, I don't care what she does. The fundamental principles of, like, to me, like, success, they apply to anything. It doesn't matter whether it's baseball or any, like, it's the same balance, the same, belief in yourself, the same, like I said, it's input, output. So if she wants to be, a ballerina, if she wants to be a prima ballerina, like,
are you doing the things that are
right,
required
like,
to do
like,
it?
But it all stems with belief. So, like, and it's that level of push. Like, I want to see her do it naturally. I don't want to push her. Like, I want to see her do something that she loves and comes naturally to her. And I want to, you want to see her practicing it, walking in the room, and she's, like, practicing alone. You know what I mean? Like, just, and like, even better would be, like, is, like, when they're intense and you can see their imagination. Like, they're really, I used to sit in front of a mirror, and just practice my swing for hours. I mean, I was so lucky. Like, on the West Coast, you had the Cubs game. Usually the Cubs played on the day, and the day game. So you could watch the Cubs game at, like, 10 in the morning.
That's right.
Then the Braves came on at 7 o'clock, but it was 4 o'clock our time. So now I could watch the Braves game, and then the Dodgers came on at 7. I could watch 3 games in one day. Like, I used to watch 3 baseball games in a day all the time. And during that time, I would be in the mirror practicing my swing, throwing ball. Like, in between games, I'm outside throwing on the wall. Like I was obsessed with baseball. So to me, like, you just have to find your obsession.
Do you feel like that obsession cost you other things?
No doubt, but I don't care.
Yeah.
And so I don't.
It was worth it.
Yeah, I don't care. Like what it cost me. Like watching cartoons with my friend. I don't know, like playing video games with my buddies. Like cool. To me, I'm not interested. Like I don't want to be a. I don't have any ambition of being the number one video game player in the world. If I would have, I probably would have been like,
Yeah.
My eyes would be dark. I'd probably be sitting in a room nonstop for 13 hours. Like,
Yeah.
But I just, and that's part of the personality aspect of when we get into like player development and, success. Like if you talk about your personality, like I'm a very like, just all in guy. Like when I set myself, like there's nothing, I just go straight tunnel vision, and I can really lock in for hours on one task and not get in. Just like if you distract me or you try, I get kind of grumpy. Like I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm doing this.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not coming out of my cave until I'm done. So I need you to just like kind of like leave me alone. And some people don't have like. I'm not saying you have to have that to be successful,
Right.
But like Vivian doesn't have, her daughter doesn't have like she's a more balanced. She's more balanced too. She's like I don't know if that's sometimes I can be like kind of grumpy.
Yeah.
Because like it's like that composer sitting in his office, like just like crumpling up papers and like, this isn't good. And, it's like, I can get like, so.
Well, that's good self-awareness.
Yeah.
Certainly,
Yeah.
I guess
so I don't know if it's, but that's the way, that's my happiness is that like going into my cave by myself and just tackling tasks. Like I used to go in the batting cage for hours. Hours, like 6 hours, not come out. Just go into a cage by myself with a machine, no coach, no other players. And like I could just sit in there for 3, 4, 5 hours, just hitting and just thinking,
Yeah.
how am I going to get this? How am I going to do this? Like, I love that part. I love it. And some people, they're more extroverts and they need, they want to be surrounded by people and, that's cool too. Mm-hmm.
Can you share a story of what it's like to be in a major league locker room, or maybe the story of when you first got called up for the first time?
Yeah, the first time I got called up. So I'll kind of give it like two. So I was like really lucky. I got to go to so in spring training you have two spring like camps. There's minor league camp and major league camp.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole entire career, I got invited to major league camp. So very like at that time it was like a big deal. Like
Yeah.
I was the youngest guy, in spring training for years. Like almost like too young. Like people were kind of mad. Like this guy doesn't belong. He hasn't gone through the wars yet to be here to earn this. So
Was it because you were a left-handed
right?
hitting catcher?
Yeah, exactly. It's like just another guy to catch all the bullpens. Like, let's be serious, So, but I was there, and my first major league camp, I remember walking in that locker room, and it was like Albert Pujols, Scott Rowland, David Eckstein, Wainwright, Carpenter. I mean, these guys, Jim Edmonds.
They had a squad back then.
Molina, all these guys. Yeah, I think they won the World Series, or they lost the World Series the year before, 2004. I think they won. So they were coming off a World Series, and I'm in there with them. And later on, I found out that the clubbies, like the guys that take care of like the clubhouse, they joked that first spring training that they thought I was a mute. Like I just sat there, just sat in my locker.
Yeah.
Just kind of gawking at these guys,
Yeah.
I didn't say a word.
Keep your head down, do your job.
Yeah, and and I was just so super shy. Then just stayed to myself, and it was like I actually couldn't wait to get on the field. Like the field has always been that one place where like I feel like I open up and I'm like free.
So you don't feel any pressure when you're on the field? Cause
No.
it's the freeing point.
Yeah, like the locker room to me, it was almost like always like the most nervous area. It's like before the game, there's sometimes the press isn't there.
Could it be because when you're sitting in the locker room, now you have all these stars around you. You don't feel equal, but when you're on the field, you feel equal?
I don't know. I really don't. I never put my finger on it. I think about it a lot. I used to think about it a lot too. It's like, what made it like, why was I able to just like step between the lines and just kind of like, I don't know, it might, fight or flight. Like once you're in, like once you get on your feet, hit that dirt.
Yeah.
There's no running back anymore. Like you have to just go. You have to fight. Like, so your just human instinct just takes over. Like at least mine did. And I just like went all in. And it was like once I went all in, then I went into that tunnel vision, and I stopped, like the crowd didn't exist. Have you ever seen that movie Love of the Game?
Oh, yeah.
He says like clear the mechanism, and the whole thing just kind of goes blurry around him.
Blurry and white noise.
Yeah, it's like that's exactly what happened. Like as soon as that game started, usually during the bullpen, when we started the bullpen, so when the pitcher, was warming up in the bullpen, like I could just like that mechanism just cleared, and the fans didn't exist. Nothing existed anymore except the next pitch.
Focus.
Just winning,
Yeah.
right? Like just basically like go out and give it all. Like and it wasn't even like force. Like I said, it wasn't like motivation. It was fight or flight. Like,
well, it's a natural instinct over your
yeah.
careers. You learn how to just lock in and focus when the game starts.
You just go. So back to the clubhouse. So that first year I was like a mute, but then I had 4 or 5 more major league camps until my first call up. So by the time I got called up, I kind of already knew everybody. Like I'd already been to Busch Stadium on like exhibition games. I was kind of familiar, I was familiar.
Yeah.
So it was more of that initial kind of call up of like, once you're in the minor leagues, you get the call to finally go, and now you're, boarding a plane, and like it was a sense of like floating.
But does that also contribute to like I made it?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
all of this hard work culminates in that moment, right?
Yeah, you have one of those, like movie rewind flashback moments where you're just like everything like just kind of plays through your head real fast, and you're like, wow, like this
is happening.
Yeah, it's happening, and then again, like you have that floating kind of euphoric episode, and then for me, when I got to Busch Stadium, the game was already in process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was already like the second or third inning. So I showed up in the game, the crowd was already going, and I showed up in the locker room and it was empty. Nobody was in there.
Okay.
So it was, it was throw the bag down.
It's a little bit like The Natural.
put the suitcase down, put the jersey on, and get out in the dugout. And go out there. And so it was.
Fortunately, they already knew who you were. So
yeah,
it wasn't like, hey, my name's Bryan.
Yep, and they're in the in the middle of the game, and it's like everybody's giving me the congrats and they come up to me, but at the same token, it wasn't like it was like, all right, welcome, like you're thrown right into the battle, like, hey, like Tony's like, hey, congrats, but like, hey, be ready, you might pinch hit later on, and you're like, oh dang, let's go, you're like, yeah. So you're like, all right, here we go.
Was your first time on the field at bat or behind the plate?
I think it was the next day. My first, I got to pinch hit. I got to pinch hit. What was his name? And I swear, they announced like your major league debut. So now making his major league debut.
Yeah.
And I swear, whoever was pitching heard it, and he grooved a fastball like 90 miles an hour down the middle.
Yeah.
Like, here, kid.
That's
like
nice.
you only get
Did
one
you hit
of these.
it?
You only get one of these, you know,
Yeah.
first pitch in the big leagues.
Yep. Did you hit it?
I'll give it to you. Like, I swear he did it for me, and I popped up to right field.
Oh,
So,
at least you didn't swing and miss.
yeah, no, flew out to right field. But, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you remember who you called the first time? Like, who did you call right after you got the news?
Oh, my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, just called the house phone back in the day. Nice. There was one number, whoever picked up first got the news first.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, called the landline. Yeah.
What's your favorite baseball movie?
Oh, probably.
We could do a whole podcast on baseball movies.
Yeah.
We only got a couple minutes left, so I wanted to get that.
Major League.
Major League?
Yeah, Major League's my favorite. Major League's favorite. Natural. If you're gonna go sentimental, probably The Natural.
Yeah.
Childhood movies, Sandlot. So I might go that Major League, Natural, Sandlot.
That's a good top 3.
Bull Durham.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would throw Field of Dreams in there.
Oh yeah, Field of Dreams.
The love of the game.
The dad jerker.
The love of the game came in later in life, but I think equally as good as all of them. I mean, what I would do, since it's funny because I played football through college, but baseball was my favorite sport. I just was better at football.
Yeah.
Growing up in Wisconsin, I got 13 games in my high school season because of the weather. Playing baseball in the summer as a high school kid wasn't as popular to do.
Yeah. You talking about baseball?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
yeah.
How are you expected to show anything in 13 games?
Yeah.
So very short seasons.
Yeah.
The culture of baseball wasn't alive where I lived. Mm-hmm. So I would have to travel far distances in order to want to get into any of the other leagues that were playing baseball at that time.
Yeah.
So it was easier just for me to say, hey, I'm good at football. I'm going to go to football camps. I'm going to hang out with my friends, do that.
Yeah, that environment. It's big.
Yeah, but baseball was my favorite sport. Mm-hmm. And I always loved going to Cubs games. I'm a Cubs fan. I know. White Sox and Cardinals and and the Reds.
Hey, Wrigley's awesome. I love Chicago.
Yeah, but before every opening day, I would watch all my baseball movies. Like, it was my mission to watch every baseball movie that I had or owned on DVD before, or VHS at the time, before the opening day. So it was like my spring season was watching all the baseball movies. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I used to watch. I would watch a movie before every game in high school. Mm-hmm. That was my ritual.
I did that for football too.
Yeah, I would watch a baseball movie.
Nice.
Throw in a baseball movie every night.
It was like The Program and Varsity Blues.
Yeah, Varsity Blues. Yeah. Yeah.
Then I had a highlight tape of like the best running backs, NFL Films best running backs. So I'd watch that before every game.
Oh, yeah. Shoot. I had a thing called the In the Zone. It was a DVD audio book about getting like in the zone for baseball players, Like,
nice.
Yeah, and I would listen to that, the old Walkman. I'd have a Walkman with my headphones.
Yeah.
Trying to get in the zone before a game. Oh, yeah. Falling asleep to, you're going to be the greatest. The ball's going to look like a
beach ball
come in slow motion tomorrow.
You talked about mindset. I mean, there's a lot of, my kids are still young, but I've already started talking to them about positive thinking, and I do not want to hear I suck coming out of your voice, out of your mouth.
No. Yeah.
You've got to maintain a positive attitude, a positive outlook, and positive affirmations in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And it's vital to your success.
You have to believe. Like, my biggest two things, it's like principle wise, like, you know thyself, and you have to believe. Like, whether you believe in a higher being or you believe in God, you believe in but you have to believe that you can achieve it. Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't believe, you don't have. There's no way. If you're self-doubt and
you've already lost.
Exactly. Like, that's what I mean. Like, you could have that's what I see a lot with the high school guys, and the college guys.
That
like,
they believe, or
they
that
have
you have
all
to
the
help them
ability.
to
They have all the
believe.
ability, right?
Yeah.
They just doubt.
self-doubt.
They just self-doubt. Like they have the strength, the speed, the swing, but they don't think they just doubt it. And so that's what I mean is it's hard to how do you teach belief, like that's the reason why there's religions, and like how do you teach somebody to believe?
Well, I think you can change the habits of their mindset,
Yeah.
getting them to understand that
Yeah.
verbalizing negative things, whether it's using the word hate
Right.
or using the word love, even using like I don't like something is different than I hate something, right? Because the
Right.
word like itself is
Yeah, absolutely.
is a positive word. The word
Absolutely.
hate is a negative word.
Absolutely,
If you're
yeah.
constantly putting negative things coming out of your mouth,
Yep.
it infiltrates your brain subconsciously. It puts you in a negative state of mind, and you'll never achieve success if you're in a negative state. You
Right.
got to be in a positive, relaxed state.
Right. And unfortunately, and that's what we deal with a lot right now is like a lot of these kids are very negative.
Mm-hmm.
They have, they self-talk is real rough.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's real rough.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed this positive conversation. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah.
If you want some baseball coaching from Bryan Anderson at Arcane Baseball, check him out. He's the best. I end all my Rub Some Dirt Out It podcasts with a baseball or sports trivia question, but I have a baseball trivia question for you.
Okay.
That should be an easy one. Who is the catcher who has the most career putouts?
It's not Yogi.
No.
It's not Pudge.
He used to be. He was passed by this guy.
Oh, it's Molina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Molina passed him.
15,122.
15,000?
Yes. 15,122 putouts in his career. I don't even that was like that number was
That's what I'm saying.
mind-boggling.
That's crazy.
Like
You think of that, like 15,000. That's in a major. Like, so think of how much work it took to get to that. That's crazy.
I mean, I was just like, that can't be right, but
Molina.
yada yada.
Yeah, he's like the reason I'm doing everything.
Right. Well, so was he the
Yeah, he's like one of the pivotal. Like, if you, I mean, we could talk all day. Like, yeah, he's. It's like, okay, why I felt like he was always a step ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a step ahead. Like, I'd get up and he'd go there, and it's like I could never reach him.
Right.
I could never reach, no matter how hard I tried. And I finally was like, why? How? Like, how did he get so good? And I started going down this rabbit hole of like, how are these guys so good? Like, I'm working just as hard as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what are they doing differently? What is different about them? And it's things like their environment, what they grew up in.
Yeah, he comes from a family of major leaguers.
Yeah, he comes from a family of major leaguers. His dad was training him like on specific details, like really young age. It's like a Mozart. It's like it's like Mozart. Like, no shock that Mozart's dad was a composer. His dad was a big leaguer. Barry Bonds' dad, his godfather was Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Like, there's no surprise that these guys are the greatest of all time. Like,
Right.
Their dads were experts.
So it was I know we were trying to wrap it up, but then that got me reminded. Was Mike Piazza like your hero growing up? Was that the guy that you looked at?
He was
Or
one
was
of them. Who
was that guy?
I got real lucky. The guy that I really looked up to catching was Mike Matheny.
Yeah.
So Mike was my whole family's Cardinal fans, and I just man, he was just a dog back there, big guy, just a tough catcher. Loved the way he caught. He was so good. And just clean. Like Pudge, I loved how Pudge hit homers and threw people out. I love Piazza's swing, but they had aspects of their catching that it was kind of like a little bit. But Mike was just like behind the plate. It was like, to me, he was just like God. And then Molina went to the Cardinals and he got mentored by Mike. So not only did Molina like have his dad and his brothers, then he went and like Matheny was the catcher there, 4 Gold Glove catcher, which just like honestly like at that time was like the perfection of catching. And Molina learned from him, and Mike took him under his wing. And when Mike got done, playing, then he became the catching coordinator for the Cardinals. At the same time, I got drafted. So I got lucky because I got...
So you got some tutelage from him?
Yeah, I was like the number 1 catching prospect. And, and then Mike was like now my coach. And then all those those major league camps with Molina. So I learned from Molina and Mike on catching. And, but I'm like, man, these guys got this earlier. They got it like... They just, they had a head start. It's like having, professor. It's like having like, medical professors as your parents.
Sure. But it's also why I bring my son to you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because I look at him and I go, that could be his position.
Yeah.
Because he has a natural body for it. He's tough.
Yeah.
And, if he gets the right tutelage to start with, he gets the right foundation, then the rest is just
it's cool.
His determination.
Yeah, catching is cool. It's like kind of like gurus. It all starts with this guy Dave Ricketts for us. Dave Ricketts is like the ultimate like catching guru. He was our like legend, this like godfather figure that took us all, and like Mike was under him, and then Molina was under him, and like I was under him. It's like disciples of Mr. Ricketts. He's just a Cardinals legend, and everything like you do, if you're part of that Ricketts like kind of discipleship, you're just trying to like pass on to the next. You're just like, he was such a great coach and great guy, and you're just trying to like, if you can just sprinkle some of Dave Ricketts around, you're going to make the world a better place.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check out Dave Ricketts. I'm going to look him up. And again, Bryan, thank you so much for being on the Rub Some Dirt on It podcast. I'm excited about where this is going.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being a guest. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.